Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to another Live and Leeds show. I'm delighted to be joined by two wonderful guests. I'm delighted to be joined by Marek Gaj and Anna Franks. Anna and Marek, how are you this evening?
Really good. Thanks, John. Thanks for having us on.
Great, yeah, thank
My
you.
pleasure. My pleasure, Marek. My pleasure, Anna. Because I thought it would be interesting because Marek, to you first. We'll start. We'll defy convention. We'll actually go with the gentleman first. And because you've been in Portlaoise now 15 years.
Correct, yes. I came September 2006.
Yes. And we have the Germans to thank for you staying here all this length of time. Would you like to explain to our viewers why we have Germany and the Germans to thank for your presence in our wonderful town of Portlaoise?
Yes, of course. Well, it is kind of a funny story though. I was born in Poland, in Subice. It's actually a very small town, around 20,000 people living there. It's a town just on the border with Germany. And I went to the college actually in Germany for 4 years as an IT guy. And when I finished the college and when I passed all my exams, I was told, look, Marek, we're going to get you a nice job, okay? We're actually going to build a factory on the Polish side and you're going to work there as a supervisor. So that was like 2006, end of the May or June. And I said, fine, yeah, that's great. Like, great news, and they said like, look, you're going to give some time off now. Probably we're going to come back to you just before the Christmas time, 2006. So I said, look, I have plenty of time. Look, I might just, go abroad, go to a different country, maybe get a job, save some money for a new car and then come back, and then start my work. So I talked to plenty of friends actually, around my town and they said, look, why would you not go to Ireland? I said like, geez, why Ireland? It's not far away actually, from Berlin. You can fly from Berlin to Dublin. It's actually a very short flight, very good connection, it's a lovely country, and they like whiskey. I said, Jesus, yeah, that sounds actually great, So I did just very small research about the island, about the Irish people, and I actually like it, So wasn't thinking twice. I just, took the bus. I went to the airport, I took the flight, and I came to Ireland. After a few days, when I came to actually to Portlaoise, I got a job. Then I was happy actually with that, And then I got actually an email from the company saying, look, there will be a small delay. We won't open, before Christmas time. It probably will be Easter time, 2007. I said, okay, fine, no problem. Then the Easter time came, I was still in my in Portlaoise working, making friends, And then I got another email saying, look, another delay. Probably will be, the end of the 2007 and then 2008. And then eventually, I just gave up with them. And the factory actually opened in 2014, So, yeah.
Yeah, so good thing that you, you didn't go back home. But see,
Yeah,
there's the question, Marek. Think about it now. Do you consider Portlaoise home or Subice home?
Look, I'm Polish, definitely. I was born in Poland and I'm Polish, but I'm Irish too as well,
Yes.
I'm Irish citizen as well at the same time. So I'm kind of 50-50. Obviously, Poland, it always will be my, my country, I was born there and there's no doubts about it. But my home is now here in Ireland, in Portlaoise, My two kids were actually born in Portlaoise Hospital. And my home is here, my wife is here, my friends, my brother, my sister, my family, they're all here, so obviously my sister, one of the sisters left in Poland, Miss Subice, the other one is actually in Norway. So it's a very difficult question, but I would say I'm still 50-50 kind of,
Yeah, because, and this phrase, Marek, the new Irish, do you like this phrase or do you think it's a bit politically correct? What do you think?
Look, I don't mind. I don't mind it, I know how do I feel about this country, and I know how do I feel about my friends, and I don't really mind how you're gonna call me or how other people are gonna call me, I'm here, I'm living here, I'm working here, so it doesn't matter, you can call me New Irish or Irish Polish or whatever it is.
Yeah,
I'm here.
It's a great attitude to have. Exactly. And Anna, I'm thinking now, listening to Marek there, Marek, you might agree with this or disagree. I don't know. I'm going to put it to Anna first. That where the Poles were, we'll say 15, 20 years ago, the Irish were back in the 1950s and 60s. they unfortunately had to leave their country to find work in different countries. And of course, that was the experience of your parents as well, Anna.
Yeah, totally. I mean, so my Irish heritage, my dad is from Laois. He's from a really small little village called Straboe, which is just between Portlaoise and Mount Mellick, near the Shane Hospital, if anyone knows that.
Yes.
So he was from there. He was one of 5 brothers, the youngest of 5 brothers, and he emigrated in the late 1960s. 2 of his brothers had gone before him, so they'd already landed in London, I suppose, and you know, he obviously felt that it was his kind of turn next. 2 of them actually stayed in Straboe for all of their lives. You know, unfortunately, one of them's not there anymore. Big shout out to my fellow Dunn cousins in Straboe, because it was their father, P. Dunn, very famous cattle dealer across Ireland, who stayed, and also my other uncle, John. And my mum was from Kerry. So yeah, I'm totally from that line of, you know, people who have had to emigrate. Predominantly because of financial reasons, I'm assuming, and actually, you know, wanting to go and find a new life for themselves, really. And mum and dad did that. They met in London. We grew up in Cricklewood, which is a very Irish area. So I'm sure many of your listeners may have even frequented some of the bars, the Irish bars in Cricklewood, the Crown in Cricklewood, and you had the Galtamore, and you had the National in Kilburn. And, you know, unfortunately, most of those are gone. The Crown in Cricklewood is still there. Talking about the New Irish, it's really interesting how the Crown was almost like an Irish institution in Cricklewood. And now it's actually more predominantly European communities that frequent the Crown. You still get the, you know, the odd Irish person in there as well. But yeah, I mean, it's a really important part of my heritage and identity. And I think I suppose I've just grown up with the whole Irish culture around me. We were totally embedded in the Irish community, and that was related to, you know, we're Catholics, so the church was very important to my mum and dad. And my dad was a barman in the local church for 25 years. In you know, lots of them had halls underneath that would run Irish Saturday evening dances and stuff like that. I was dragged along to many of those, which I loved. And I was an Irish dancer for 18 years. And, you know, I've mentioned I went on to study Irish studies at university as well. So that kind of like connection, I suppose, to Ireland is very strong for me. And I feel it's very core part of my identity as well.
Yeah, I mean, you've multiple identities as well, because not only are you Irish, you're a Londoner, but now after you went traveling, you met your now husband, and he's a proud Yorkshireman, and now you're living up north in Yorkshire, and of course now you have another layer of identity to your person.
Definitely. I mean, I think some people, like, I don't really hear it, but some people say my accent can be a bit funny sometimes, because I get a bit of an Aussie twang, and then I have a predominantly London, and then every now and again I forget and slip into a bit of Yorkshire out and out, that sort of thing. I think, you know, I suppose you asked Marek the question about where do you class as home, and I think that's a really interesting question, because for me, London, in theory, will always be my home, like physically, where I grew up. It's where most of my friends are. You know, my family still predominantly live down there. But I think there is this really interesting thing for Irish migrants where, you know, it's a very natural way of conversation that amongst my Irish friends, particularly second generation, the question is always, when are you going home again? And they're not talking about London, they're talking about Ireland. You know, and that doesn't matter whether I'm in Leeds or in London. They'll say, "Oh, sure, when are you going home again?" And you know, it's a natural. We acknowledge and understand that home is Ireland. So it's a really interesting kind of pull, I suppose, that we all feel. And I think there's a real pride in the second generation Irish, whichever you know, city within the UK that you actually live in, about the culture that you come from, the music, the heritage, the history. And how you connect with that, and actually that becomes part of your identity. I think it's really interesting for me at the moment. I've got 2 young girls, Grace and Daisy, who are 5 and 3, and I'm trying to embed in them the sevens, you know, like hot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they're kind of getting it, but you know, they've got that kind of next layer of identity where it's, you know, they are Yorkshire, Irish, London. My partner's family are part German and part Lincolnshire. So, you know, they've got a whole host of identities that they can connect into, which I think is fantastic. I just need to fly the flag for the Irish side, obviously. They'll be supporting Ireland, definitely.
Of course. Yeah, remember the Norman Tebbit rule. Do you shout for England in the cricket or the country of your birth?
Yeah, exactly.
It's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. And of course, Anna, you soaked up your Irishness every summer. You'd come home with your family, get the 4-hour drive over, get the ferry to Rosslare, drive to Portlaoise. You spent a week in Portlaoise every summer, and then a week down in Kerry with your mum's family. And that was the only holiday you had for years and years and years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we never went abroad. I don't actually think my mum and dad, they've never been to Spain or anywhere like that, because there was almost like, it was an unwritten rule that we would just always just go to Ireland, I think. And, you know, I suppose you romanticize that trip in some ways. You know, I've got lots of great memories of fighting with my brother in the back of the car and getting on the ferry and it being choppy waters sometimes. You know, but I think there's something really lovely about those summers that we spent in Ireland. And I always wind up my Irish family and say, look, you just used to get us home for a bit of hard labour on the bog, because, you know, an extra pair of hands on the bog is always really handy. And when you're like 6 or 7, the bog is a bit of a novelty. And, you know, I'm a London girl, you know, like tractors and messing around in fields and, you know, cows mooing and people shoving cows into back of carts to go off to the mart at 5 a.m. You know, it was great fun for me coming from the city. But, you know, it was a really kind of like free childhood. And I vividly remember, I think it was when I'd finished my GCSE. So I must have been like 15, 16, and we got a particularly long holiday. I think it must have been about the 6-7 weeks. Obviously in Ireland, you guys get loads of holidays in the summer. You get about 3 months, don't you? And I'd managed to persuade my mum and dad to let me go back to Ireland for the whole summer. And I think I ended up spending like 4 weeks in Straboe with my cousins for that period of time. And it was just brilliant. I just absolutely loved it. Yeah, it was really good.
Brilliant. And of course, we have to thank one of your cousins in particular, because she messaged us here at the Laois People to say, look, will you please play Anna's video? Because you had a wonderful video up on the Irish in Britain Facebook page. Can you explain about the video and the whole concept of that?
Yeah, sure. So Irish in Britain is especially the national organisation in the UK that champions the Irish community. They are the voice for many Irish organisations and groups across the UK, from Kioltas to GAA to all the Irish centres, lots of support and advice organisations, like in Leeds, there's Leeds Irish Health and Homes, and they just all of them provide a wonderful support and connection to the Irish community. So as part of the run up to St. Patrick's Day, which, you know, unfortunately couldn't be a physical parade and celebration across all of our countries, they decided to do a very short video representing every county in Ireland. And they got wind that I had Laois connections, so they asked me to do the video, and yeah, I was really proud to do that. And you know, unfortunately my dad's not with us anymore, so I think he would have been quite proud about that as well. And it was lovely to have my little girls at the end. They just did a little bit of a slauncher and a cheers sort of thing, so that was nice.
Yeah, we'll put it up again for our viewers.
Right.
So, and of course you were wearing your Laois jersey.
I was, yeah. I'm not a GAA player. I'm going to hold my hands up to that at all. My cousins play GAA. I never quite worked out the kind of run 3 times and kick the ball malarkey, if that is even the right rule.
Yeah, the 4 steps.
4 steps, there you go.
Yeah, it was drilled into us when we were young, the 4 steps.
But my granddad was a really big hurler, apparently. So he was born and bred Straboe, but he was a big hurler, yeah. Yeah. So brilliant. So the breeding is great. Definitely.
The pedigree is great. And back to you, Marek. It's interesting because when you flew to Dublin for the first time 15 years ago and came to Ireland for the first time 15 years ago, that was your very, very first flight.
Correct, yes. Yeah. My first flight ever, yeah. So yes, I was a little bit scared. Obviously, like I was 25, but going to the to the airplane the very first time ever, it was a lot of adrenaline as well, But yeah, I really enjoyed that, They kind of give
Of
me like
course.
the feeling of the freedom, we just going somewhere, for the very first time ever, So it was great, actually. Yeah, great adventure.
A great adventure. And now for your two sons, Marek, how old are they now?
Tomek is so Tomek was 2012 and Szymon 2014. Both born in Ireland, in Portlaoise.
Yeah. But like, how many times have they been over to visit your family in
Like
Subotica?
we used to fly plenty time, like at least once a year we used to go to Poland, and at least once a year or every second year my parents or my parents-in-law used to come to Ireland. So kind of if they came this year, we would go the next year, that kind of way. So always swapping, for the Christmas or the Easters or even for the summertime. My mom and my dad, they came I think 2 years ago, and they stayed I think for over 2 months with us. Because I have actually a sister living with us in Portugal as well. So they were here with my sister, with my brother and myself, which was great, And obviously we couldn't go for so long to Poland because obviously you may have maybe only 2 weeks of holidays, but we would spend those 2 weeks or 10 days or whatsoever in Poland as well, which was great. And for them, yes, they really enjoyed, the trip, to Poland, like, to go and see grandma there and grandma here, which was really great for them.
But just a question popped into my head there, Marek, and I might sound a strange one in that when your sons are speaking Polish at home in Subotica, I mean, is there a so-called Irish Polish accent?
Yes, correct. Like, sometimes because I would say they don't have first and second language. They have only two first languages, I would say. I would say that Polish and English is on the same level for them. So sometimes they are switching very often between Polish and English, even if they were talking to me, because they're lacking, let's say, some words in Polish, or they might even like some words in English. So they can swap them, one for the other one. And even if they talking to my mom, to great grandmama over the Viber or Skype or whatever it is, sometimes they might use actually the English words for the Polish one because they don't have the replacement, and they're gonna come and ask me like, Jesus, Daddy, how to say this and that, because they don't know, and I need to explain them, and from the other way, they might even use some Polish words and they don't know even how to translate them in English, because we kind of use some kind of dialects as well, or slang language, that kind of way. So yeah, but yeah, I would say for them they have only one language, well, which is mix of Polish and English.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. And speaking of amazing things, Marek, I mean, a lot of our viewers will have seen some of the videos and photos you take. I mean, they're staggeringly really, really good. I mean, would you class yourself still as an amateur, and that it's still a hobby? Because we've reposted your stuff, and it's very, very good.
It is a hobby, maybe one day I will switch from what I'm doing at the moment, as a full-time, photographer or filmmaker. As you know, because of the pandemic situation for the moment, it is actually very difficult, to do anything and actually get paid for that, So for the moment, it is a hobby. I'm really enjoying my time doing that. And most of the times, all those projects are for free, So even if I do any projects for my friends, for my family, obviously I do not charge them. If I go and I shoot any pictures, like the Togger Woods or the main stage during, the Christmas time, obviously that's free of charge. I'm not going to charge anyone for that, And on top of that, I'm building my own gallery. So I have my own web, frametheview.com. When the restrictions are going to be lifted, obviously I will go to different places in Ireland and gonna, either, shoot the pictures or shoot the videos down there and promote them as well, So the gallery will grow, week by week, hopefully, once when they're gonna let us go anywhere. But yeah, the whole idea is actually, to stay positive and enjoy yourself, enjoy the time, either with the family or even with yourself. That's the main thing, but definitely, maybe in the future, who knows, I will switch from too. Why not?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised if you did switch to doing it full time. I mean, Anna, we were talking just before we came on air about the 5-kilometer restriction we have here. Do you have the same restriction in Leeds?
No, we don't. I mean, we're at a really interesting point because we've obviously got this kind of roadmap out of COVID, and we're on I think it's from next Monday. We're allowed to have up to 6 people, and we're allowed to meet up to 6 people outside. So we're not. There is a kind of like unwritten restriction with regards to, you know, you're not really allowed to be traveling too far. But I mean, I'm right on the cusp of the Yorkshire Dales, so there are some beautiful walks around me. But you know, it's just really difficult, and I think, you know, again, I really feel, particularly for, you know, first generation Irish people who have not been able to get home at all for like over a year now. You know, their only connection, I presume Marek's had the same issue with his family in Poland, but the only connection is via Zoom or WhatsApp, and you know, it's not quite the same. I mean, one of my favorite memories of going back to Portlaoise was the gathering in 2013. Like, we literally got the whole
Yes.
gang back to Portlaoise, and that included our Glasgow branch. So we had Glasgow, we had London, and we all gathered at my cousin Anita, who connected me
Yes.
with you at her house, and we had like the best time, and it was just so wonderful to have everyone together. Maybe I need to prompt her to have a renewal of that when we're out of lockdown. Maybe they could do another gathering, but you know,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
difficult. It is really difficult, and I think, you know, as I say, you know, with regards to people trying to get home to see family, it's just, you know, even over here, you're so limited.
You're so limited. And of course, you were telling me before we came on air that your brother is now living over in Ireland here.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. So my brother and I went traveling around sort of the year 2000, and we went together. We did, it was an amazing trip. We did like South Africa, and then we went to Australia, and we did Bali and Thailand and Laos. So a whole host of countries. But long story short, we both met our respective husbands and wives. Wives, it's not plural, but you know, one each. And I obviously moved to Yorkshire, and he met a girl from Enniscorthy, and she was a nurse at St Vincent's. So he moved straight over there when he came back, got married, and now has a lovely family living in Greystones. So his daughter and son, Beth and Jack, and he's a nurse at St Vincent's as well. So that he's kind of followed her in that direction. But yeah, again, it's that kind of lovely for us, I suppose, like me and my brother being second generation Irish. It's nice now that we've got another kind of strand of the family tree that's, you know, first generation again, I suppose. And it builds that connection for my daughters that they've got first cousins, even though they've got a whole proliferation of second and third cousins, obviously, in Portlaoise that they know very well. It's nice to have that direct connection as well.
It is nice. It is nice, and it's heartwarming as well. Absolutely. But it must be tough. I mean, when did you see your brother and his family last physically?
February 2020. Yeah, I think we literally flew over, me and the girls, and we had a few days with them then. So we you know, we obviously didn't know COVID was coming at that point. So that is the last time, and the last time that he's been able to come over here and actually be with us or go see my mum and our wider family in London. So you know, it's tough, and you kind of don't know. And I think also one of the challenges is that England, fair dues to them, are doing amazing things with the rollout of the vaccine. I think over half of our population has actually received the first vaccine. You know, they're on with the second vaccines for the most of them. From what I can gather, Ireland has not done so well with regards to rolling out.
Yeah. Well, no, we haven't been doing well. My lovely wife, is half English, half German, and her mum, who's now living in France, she got her first jab 2 weeks ago. Is getting the second jab next week. My wife's friends in England, they almost all have got the jab at this stage, and you're wondering, when are we going to get this? Yeah. You just have to be patient, Anna.
Well, it is, but I think there's a slight frustration, isn't there, then? Because I suppose from our perspective, being in the UK, with Ireland being out of kilter with the UK, it further restricts how quickly we can get back to seeing family and having those connections as well. So, you know, it's difficult, and our hands are tied. There's nothing we can do about it. But yeah, hopefully Ireland might start to speed up a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully, because before you'd go over to England or Scotland or Wales, I mean, it's like you'd think nothing of it. It was routine. And now, because of the lag here, it's not so routine.
Yeah, I mean,
it won't be for a while.
Exactly. I mean, you know, to be honest, I'm like 15 minutes from Leeds Bradford Airport. So for me to go to Dublin, you know, is literally you're in the air for half an hour. So I can probably more or less get to Dublin as quickly as I can drive to London. So, you know, that just shows the proximity of how easy it is to go back and forth to Ireland. And you know, obviously the impact of the limitations there as well around the whole COVID thing. But yeah, I mean, fingers crossed, we'll get back to the point where it's a normality that, you know, we don't have to think so far in the future about how we're going to do it and what the implications might be as well.
Yeah, the sooner the better, back to normal. And Marek, for your family, after all this madness is over, are you planning a big family get together?
Oh, definitely.
Back in Poland?
Oh, definitely, we're gonna make a huge party.
Yes.
But look, I'm just afraid, you know, it won't happen, you know, this year. It won't happen next year, you know. We were all thinking probably last year, you know, the 2020 is the worst one, and the 2021 will be much better. But as we see, it's actually not, you know. So yeah, definitely we need to stay patient, you know. And then again, if everything will be okay, definitely we will go. Definitely we will go, and we probably will go for longer than just 1 week. Hopefully we're gonna go there maybe for a month or for two, you know, and stay there and enjoy with the family, because you know, self, as you said, Anna, it's not easy now to go and see your members of the family like it used to be before, you know. My flight to Berlin would take probably just around 2 hours, you know. So, you know, from Dublin to Berlin is just 2 hours, 1 hour drive, and I'm at home. So, but for the moment, it looks like, you know, never-ending story, you know.
Yeah, it's probably going to be the end of this summer, beginning of the autumn before we. I can imagine. I can imagine it'll take that length of time to get back to some kind of normal. Yeah, and I can picture your sons going over to Poland, and when they speak, obviously when they speak English with a Portlaoise accent, there's something heartwarming about that. I mean, because what people, and a lot of our viewers would be aware of this, there is a very, very big Polish community in Portlaoise.
Oh, there's a good few of us, yes. Good few thousand, I would say.
Easily, because I think there are 3 shops at the moment, Polish shops at the moment, aren't there?
Correct, yeah. But even if you go to any other, you know, big markets, you might see, you know, a section with the Polish food as well, you know. Like, you know, Polish food section as well. So yeah, I would say, but look, the Polish food is very tasty, you know, and it's not actually far away from the Irish food, you know. We actually have plenty in common, believe or not. So yeah, I think you need to go yourself, you know, to the Polish shop and pick up few, you know, sweets. And I think you.
I do. Well, back in the 90s, I lived in Germany for a while, so I'd be very used to because the Polish food would be similar.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but what I love about you do great dumplings. So I love your dumplings. Well, I love my food anyway, but the dumplings in particular are lovely. Nice. And I mean, yeah. But is there something from home now? When I mean home, Poland, that you can't get so easily here that you do miss?
Oh, look, actually, I'll tell you a funny story though.
Yes.
Would you tell me, do you like pikes? You know, the fish pike. Would you eat a pike? Why?
Well, see, pike here has it's an interest. That's a good one, because for Irish people, we think of a lot of fish species that we would eat. Pike doesn't have a good reputation here. I don't know why.
Yeah, but you see, in Poland, like when I was small, we used to go for fishing. Pike was the best fish ever, you know, especially, you know, made on the grill, just put the butter and salt, lovely, tender, white meat, very clean meat, you know. Yeah. But like in Ireland, like there's no way you can go to the shop and just buy a pike. You can't buy a pike. Like even if you ask for a pike, they're gonna look at you like, what the heck are you talking about? Like you asking me for pike, like, you know, like you want to eat a rat or something, you know. That's kind of way. Yeah. But yeah, there's many of those items which you cannot really get in Ireland. You know, you need to get them from Poland or let's say from the Polish shop. Just like the pike, yeah. But look, you used to anyway, like, you know, you used to.
Yes. And Anna, the same goes for you. Is there something from Ireland that you can't get so readily in Leeds that you miss?
Not necessarily these days, I suppose. I mean, it's really lovely to hear you talking about the food connections, because I think, again, it's that kind of, I suppose the way that immigrant communities build their own kind of like supply, because, you know, in London, I remember clearly going down on a Sunday to Willesden, to the Irish shop, to get Kimberley and Mikado biscuits, you know, and a bit of Barry's tea and stuff like that. So it wasn't necessarily, there was certain things, but it was also about certain brands as well that you'd miss from home that mum and dad would just love to have in the, but then Tesco's got on the bandwagon, and you could start getting it in Tesco's and stuff. And, you know, I think the supermarkets these days are very clever about knowing which communities are in their local area. So, you know, there will be a particular Polish section in Cricklewood particularly, and there might be another little bit that's got a few Irish bits in it as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, because I think, again, you know, talking about food and culture, the Irish palate, you know, or the palate that my mother and father had, is quite bland. You know, it was spud, meat, veg, and I grew up on that. I think I had my first pizza when I was 18, when I went to university, which people were just like, I can't believe you've never eaten pizza. And I'm like, but, you know, my mum and dad just never buy pizza. It was always meat and veg. Stew, Irish stew. They loved a bit of Irish stew. And I remember coming home from school, and I could literally smell the waft of bacon and cabbage coming around the corner, and I'd be like, oh my God. And I actually quite like bacon and cabbage now, but, you know, it was this smell.
I know.
The cabbage. But, you know, but in some ways there's some really nice connections there around the Irish food. And I have to say, when I go to Ireland, it's oh God, it's just like a different quality with regards to what you get in restaurants and cafes, you know, with regards to the actual food. I mean, I'm actually a celiac, so I'm gluten-free. Ireland is like the best place to go and be gluten-free. You know, it's known as an Irish disease, particularly if you've got any genes from the west side of Ireland. You know, you're more likely, I suppose, to have celiac disease. So food has become quite a key thing for me. I mean, listening to your point there, Marek, about the pike, my mum's family in Kerry were of fishermen. So again, even when we used to go down to Kerry, I remember walking into my nan and granddad's bathroom one day, and it was just like, I wasn't expecting it, but there was just a massive salmon in the bath that he'd just caught, you know, nearly the size of the bath. But again, you're like, what's going on? So a great love of fish from being down there, and one of my cousin partners runs an oyster farm down there now in a little village called Cremorne. So check out Cremorne.
Come on, Well, we've had, you're right though, we've had a food revolution in the last 25 years. It's been great. And like you, it was brought up on the staples: potatoes, the meat, the veg. I love my spuds. I could eat spuds every single day. I mean, my family despair, they really do. But of course, and then you go to university, and again, like you, first time to taste the pizza. But the reverse might be true for you, Marek. I mean, is there something here that you can't really get in Poland, that if you go to Poland you'd miss?
Look, don't know, to be honest with you. Don't know. But definitely, like, you know, I like Irish breakfast, for example, you know, and I would say there would be any problem to get black pudding in Poland, but I'm not sure about the white one. You know, the white one might be tricky, you know. And I don't know, like, everyone know what is the difference between black and white pudding. Even sometimes I ask my friends, you know, the Irish friends, do you know what is the white, what is the black? And if I tell them that actually the black pudding contains the blood, they're like, "Ooh, really?" That's the difference between white and black pudding. You know, one with which, the other one who's without the blood. You know, but definitely yes, we would eat, you know, the black pudding in Poland, but I never came across, you know, with a white one.
Yeah, I think the white one is for pudding for beginners.
Probably, just a start, you know.
This is it. But yeah, Marek and Anna, you've just been a pleasure to have on this evening. Two wonderful guests, two. I was going to say two wonderful heritages, but of course, the two of you have multiple heritages now, between Poland and Ireland and England and Australia and Yorkshire and London. Yeah, it's just an amazing mix. an amazing mix. So Anna, before we go, like, when do you plan to come back, or is that too far off?
Well, as soon as possible, really. I mean, I think, you know, in our heads, we'd half been thinking about coming back in the summer, but then my brother was like, we're not even moving outside 5 kilometers. I wouldn't be booking anything too soon. But I definitely know, I think the Straboe crew are all ready. The Laois family are, you know, they're stocked and they're ready to go for the next gathering. So fingers crossed it might be in 2021 and not 2022, but we'll have to see on that one.
Well, you're the favourite cousin, Anna, because you wore the Laois jersey in the video.
Totally. And you know, if I'm not coming back in the summer, it means I don't have to go on the bog and help them out. So that's one bonus, isn't it?
This is it. Are you any good to foot the turf?
Very good at footing the turf. I'm better at throwing it, to be fair, and the odd bit of stacking. But yeah, I always used to end up being left behind at the shed, waiting for the trailer to come back so I could throw it in the shed. But it always built up the appetite. I always remember being ravenous after being on the bog for the day.
Yeah. But look, you're a wonderful ambassador for Ireland and for Laois, Anna. And the same goes for you too, Marek, because you're sending the wonderful videos and photos you're taking back to all your friends and family in Poland, and they just love what you're sending over. They think Ireland and Laois is beautiful, and they're right.
Well, it is. There's no doubt about it, you know. Ireland is actually a beautiful country, you know, and look, I'm here for 15 years and I just want to go and see more, like, you know, there's no way, like, you know, you want to stop. You just want to go. You can't now, but look, as you said, maybe by the end of the summer, maybe next year, we be able to go again, and you will see me keep going, like, you know, I won't stop. I won't stop.
No, there's no stopping you, Marek. There's no stopping you. I mean, I know that at the moment the 5K restriction is a pain, but it'll be lifted. We'll get back to normality, and you'll do what you do best, taking beautiful videos and photos. So again, to my wonderful viewers, I hope you enjoyed our chat this evening here with Marek and Anna. As again, I've said before, 2 wonderful ambassadors for Laois and for London and for Yorkshire and for Poland. And stay tuned, because every Saturday, you know the drill, every Saturday at 9 o'clock, we'll have a new show up. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much, and good night, and stay safe.